wanted to get everyone warmed up before we start our panel. So show me a hand if you guys are having a wonderful experience so far at our symposium. Awesome.
2 hands.
Now keep your hands up. Now show me a hand. I want you to keep your hands up for a reason. If this is the panel that you've been waiting for the entire day and this is why you came here. Oh, thank you guys. That means the world to me.
You want this?
No, we really appreciate you guys all showing up and being here today. But how many of you guys have had a budget before? Anyone? Yeah? Was that an enjoyable experience, living on a budget? No, what about a spending strategy? How many of you guys have created a spending strategy? What is a spending strategy? Right? How do you define a spending strategy? Well, we define a spending strategy as aligning your short and long-term goals with your spending, or aligning your spending with your needs, wants, and dreams. Now, one of the things that I think we could all agree upon is that as we move through life, our goals and our view on money evolve. Now, traditionally, when you're starting in a career, it's all about the bank account. It's all about accumulating wealth and saving as much as possible. And then as you move through life, you start to transfer away from the bank account and more into the memory bank. It's all about wealth preservation. It's about creating new experiences and about thinking, what's retirement going to look like, and what kind of lifestyle do I want to live in retirement? And we want to take today and kind of challenge that traditional mindset, because we think that at every stage in life you should be able to both contribute to the memory bank and the bank account. So without further ado, I want to introduce my amazing panel. These are 2 of my best friends and people that I look up to, and they happen to be Morton advisors. Kevin Rex and Patrice Ben. Kevin, thanks. Give me a second. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. Introduce yourself first, and how do you define yourself as a spender?
Can I stand up as well?
You can. I could sit down if that's less awkward, or we could do a half squat.
I wouldn't be able to last very long. Nice to see everybody. Thank you for being here. For those of you that know me, are probably just as shocked. Like, why would I be on a smart spending strategy panel? Because I am definitely somebody that loves to spend money. In fact, I would say that part of my kind of fear is that I spend so much on the memory bank, and sometimes I kind of don't think about the future and think about the bank account sometimes. And it's led to a situation where my wife and I have taken incredible trips. We get to spend a lot of time with our kids. We feel like we have a lot of nice things and the things that we care about. But yeah, I think I'm somebody that's a memory bank guy, and it turns into some of the fear around, well, am I doing enough for the bank account?
Thank you, Kevin. And Patrice, I know that you are much different than Kevin. So go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how you define yourself as a spender.
Well, I'm Patrice. I was here for the earlier session, so I might repeat myself on certain things, but I just want to say I want to be more like Kevin. So in Morton, we have 6 core values, and one of them is enjoyment. Kevin Rex is Mr. Enjoyment. I just want to say this right now. But we appreciate that about him. So I'm vastly different than you, but I think my priorities have shifted over the years. So as I'm entering my almost empty nester stage, I'm realizing that I've kind of spent my 30s blindfolded, and even though I've worked in the financial services industry, not in this particular role, I did not really emphasize my future self. I think as a 20-year-old, my 40-year-old was really far away from me, really, really far. I really did not even emphasize or even understand what my future self was going to look like. So I really placed 0 emphasis on that. So I feel like I need to play catch up. So I'm on the bank account side of things right now, and I'm okay with that. I do try to create probably pockets of fun, and I do love fun. But I would say that the bank account is definitely more a priority for me right now.
Great. Thank you, Patrice. And you guys couldn't be any different, and there's no right or wrong to that. And that's one of the great things that we're going to discover in today's panel. But for me, I don't really spend. So my wife loves to spend. She's really good at it. And so I let her do it. But I've kind of figured out a life hack, and that's if I'm really nice to her and I take the kids out for the weekend and go camping so she could go on a spa trip, or I take them to the park and she can go get her nails done, she tends to spend on me. So I mean, it
comes back.
Yeah, it kind of comes back. So that's how I theorize spending. But thank you for those answers, guys. Today we're going to be hopefully having an interactive panel. We want all your guys' involvement. So we're going to have a third panelist, and that's going to be mentee. And if you guys look up on that screen, it's going to show you how you guys can join the mentee program. So everyone take out your phones if you will.
We're going to have some fun in here. So we need interaction. We need people to participate. So we're going to make this interactive and fun.
We want to know who you guys relate to. So who do you guys, as a spender, tend to veer toward? More towards Kevin, where you're constantly contributing to the memory bank, or more towards Patrice, where you're more conservative in thinking about the bank account? So let's go ahead and answer that second question.
Whoa. Oh. Come on, spenders. Where are you at?
They're going slow.
That's okay. Yeah. All my sisters, I know you all spend, so let's go.
Represent. No, it's good. It looks like we've got a good balance in the audience today. And one thing that we talked about is, we evolve as spenders over time, and I don't think Kevin or Patrice have always been this way. So maybe take a second and Patrice, you first run us through like how you've evolved as a spender and how we've ended up here where you're at now.
So when I was 3, I'm just kidding. Our earlier session this morning was around money mindsets and really how our thoughts affect our feelings and our feelings affect our behavior and the decisions we make. So our spending is very much dictated by our mindset. But when I think about myself in my 20s and my 30s and now in my 40s, I'm a completely different person in every single decade. I would say that in my 20s, there were 2 buckets for me. There was the needs bucket, and then there was the fun bucket. And it was great buckets to be in, but I did not give much thought to my future self. And what's interesting is to go down on anatomy and psychology. We all know about our prefrontal cortex, and that's really kind of focused on our long-term planning, analytical skills, judgment, rationale. So what's interesting about our prefrontal cortex is that it does not develop fully until our mid to late 20s. So if we, as advisors, try to have a long-term planning conversation with a 20-year-old, it's going to be a very difficult conversation because they cannot even conceptualize what long-term planning looks like. So it helps us really reframe our conversations and figure out what to do. Now, I was a different 20-year-old because I shared earlier, I bought my house when I was 23 years old. So I was a mortgage person at 23, not very popular one probably at that time. But I would say that I made a very, both my husband and I made a very impulsive decision. And that's kind of what happens with us in our 20s. If you think about, my son is in college right now, and he can make impulsive decisions without really giving thought about the long-term consequences to his decisions. Younger people drive faster because they don't think if there's if getting a ticket or if you get into an accident, there's really no repercussions around that. So what's interesting is translated to the financial side of things. We don't really make decisions thinking what's going to be the long-term effect of that. So for me, the 20s were all about that, was let's make money, and then whatever I had left over, I spent it. As a matter of fact, I clearly remember I was doing my taxes, and I rounded up my credit card totals, and I had realized I spent an average of $1,000 a month on just dinners with friends. And it was $12,000 a year. What's the opportunity cost of $12,000? What else could I have done with it? I had no regrets, though. I really didn't. I enjoyed every single weekend and every single penny that was spent on those nice dinners. I would not spend $1,000 a month on dinners right now, so that's definitely changed for me. Would I appreciate them? Yes, but that's no longer a priority for me. The 30s have shifted for me in the sense that I understood financial planning. Kids will do that to you, actually, in a scary way. So I realized that all of a sudden I maybe have to plan for college. I even have to plan what happens if my husband and I are not here. So insurance became a thing. Estate planning, somebody spelled that for me. Not sure what that means. So I would say that all that kind of had to reframe in my mind of what that was going to look like from a spending perspective. So, going from 20s to 30s where you're in survival mode. And I think my 30s were very much about the memory bank because my kids were little. So I would say I definitely prioritized that. And I think if you are in that part of your life, or if you have adult children that are part of your life, I think it's very important to have that, going for you. But Now I'm, really focusing on how can I invest in myself, in a business, in my retirement, and kind of how that looks like for me in the future.
No, I love that, and you do such a wonderful job kind of articulating that evolution and being real. So thank you for that response. Kevin, what about you?
I'm still caught up in the prefrontal cortex, and I'm past my 20s, and I'm like, I don't know if mine's developed yet. And then I got caught up on the impulse, and I don't know if most of the guys or what, but I'm like, I still want to drive fast, and I still want to make quick decisions. So my evolution is going to be a little bit quicker because I don't think I've evolved nearly as much. When I was in my 20s, and I like that you bring up kind of the buckets of it, like you have your needs. And when you're in your 20s, your needs are pretty small. You have an apartment, you have a car, and maybe some food, and everything else is like, what can I do with that? And I think today I still kind of feel that same way, which if I have money in my bank account, I'm like, ooh, where can I go? What can I do? And so it's a scary thing where if I see money, I'm like, what can I have fun with? What's changed, I think, is that my needs bucket has gotten a lot bigger, where some of them are actually really needs, and other ones I kind of talk myself into them being needs. So you think about having children. And as we all know, if you have kids, they are crazy expensive. Do your kids need private tutors? Well, maybe they don't need them, but as a dad, it's like, I want to give them every opportunity possible. So when it comes to your kids, all of a sudden, everything about them becomes a need. And so potentially, your needs get bigger, so then therefore your wants have to shrink. I haven't even thought about my future dreams. Well, one solution for me was, I'll just make my wants needs, and we're good, all right? So from my standpoint, I think my maturity has come truly by marrying my wife. She has a much longer term vision. She's got big, ambitious dreams. And so we have to take a step back. And now it's a partnership versus just myself kind of spending money, frivolously whenever I want. So my evolution is not as long. And I think I'm still very similar, but I'm working through how do I continue to evolve to fill all those buckets.
Yeah. No, I love that answer, and that's very authentic to you, too. I'll just add one thing on that from my perspective. When I was reflecting on kind of how I've evolved as a spender, when I look back at the start of my career, it was all about investing in myself. Like, it was very selfish. I wanted to be the next Billy Blanks, and I thought I was going to be a fitness superstar, and so I went and got every certification under the sun. I've taught CrossFit classes, I've taught Orange Theory classes, I've done personal training, I even got my Zumba certification thinking I was going to make myself diverse. But as I realized my dream was to have a family and be able to support a family, I needed to shift what I was investing in for myself. So helping people has always been a passion of mine, and financial planning and investment management. I was able to help people kind of identify those same goals and create a personalized plan to help them achieve those goals. So I still investing in myself. I went and got my series licenses, my MBA, my CFP. But then when I got married and started having children, I had less of an urge to invest in myself. Now it was about investing in my wife and my kids and making sure they had every opportunity. They were able to be exposed to sports, exposed to the arts, be able to swim and dance and sing and do whatever they wanted so that they could have these experiences and really identify what they're passionate about. And for my wife, she's a really hardworking mom. She travels a lot with work, making sure that she's got the time and the opportunity to take care of herself and be able to go and do the things that she loves. So it's been a transitional mindset where I was so focused on me and how am I going to put my investments in myself. And now it's like, okay, how can I invest in them so that they can have the same opportunities that I've had? So thank you guys for sharing that. I think when you think about all of these things, it's the foundation of a good spending strategy comes down to we really need to know what our needs, wants, and dreams are so that we can have a strategy around how we're going to accomplish those things. And all of you guys have a pad of paper on your table. So if you wouldn't mind taking a second, grab the paper and a pen, and write down 3 or 4 of your needs, wants, and dreams, and then we're going to be able to share them on the Mentee screen.
And as you do this, I'm just going to talk. You guys keep writing. But for me, if I don't write down my dreams, if I don't have a vision board, because I am so in the moment, my mom always jokes, she's like, you would have been a fantastic garbage man because I would have just loved driving around, talking to everybody, or I could have done, you could have been anything because you just enjoy what you do, which is true. But that impulsivity, the fact that I enjoy it all, I lose sight of the dreams bucket. So as you're going through this exercise, it has been instrumental in changing my life of the needs and wants kind of happen, but for me, I have to write down these dreams. I have to start bucketing these things. So if you can jot down 2 or 3 in each of those buckets, and then we're going to ask that we can go back to the board and see if people are comfortable throwing up different words here for identifying 2 to 3 of the needs that they wrote down.
If you have trouble delineating between wants and dreams, think of your wants. Obviously, your needs are non-negotiable. Your wants are discretionary and maybe I would say short-term in nature. If you're thinking about something you would want between now and 18 months from now, and your dreams are very much long-term. They're dreams for a reason. But to Kevin's point, putting them on paper, you get closer to bridging that gap between wants and dreams, because sometimes dreams only stay dreams. But
Thank you. We'll give everyone another minute, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have those who want to throw one of or 2 or 3 needs on the Menti, and we'll start to see, if we all have the same needs, different needs.
I like this.
Well, since I'm a little girl, clothes have been my absolute thing, okay?
That's a need? I'm not questioning, just oh, yeah, sorry.
Kevin would probably agree. Wait. Do you agree with clothes?
I think we need clothes, yes,
No.
most of the time.
No. But it was like a need, a habit that I wanted to dress phenomenally, okay? That started younger, but I couldn't afford what my friends were able to get, okay? So I'm into my wants, which in my mind are my needs. Okay, so whatever I want, clothes, this, that, and the other, to me, they're the same. Wants and needs are the same. However, I now know that I don't know how long we're going to be around, and we have investments, but I know being conservative is an important, necessary need. I just have trouble with it.
Yeah, I think you and a lot of people, we all struggle with that. I think one of the things that we're going to be talking. Oh, sorry. One of the things, and I think June, I think you're spot on. I think it's really hard to distinguish sometimes between needs and wants, or even wants and dreams. And a lot of times, we're going to have this inner struggle because one's stealing from the other. Right? Whether it's a want, might be stealing from, are you sacrificing a need because you want to fulfill a want, or are you sacrificing a dream because in the short term, the want's easier to accomplish? And I think that's a very real struggle that we all deal with. So let's look at some of the needs that we've got up on the screen.
I think a lot of these we'd all agree upon, right? Housing, family, friends, happiness, saving for retirement. Then there's others up there that people can argue go to vacations and travel. This is one where someone would say that's a want, and someone else would say, no, if I don't travel or have a vacation, my mental, state, or to be able to relax or focus at work or with my kids, maybe it is a need. And so the one thing we want to kind of start really focusing on is it's going to be truly different for each of us, but writing it down and then being honest with yourself. The next thing you'll notice too is if you are doing well financially, work's good, life's good, you can expand that wants bucket and maybe even shift those into the needs. But as soon as you start struggling financially, a massage every week might be a need when things are good, but all of a sudden, you're like, we'll have to push that back to the wants bucket. So it really is this fluid process, and the more that you can have these vision boards or write down these buckets, the better I think we're all going to be long term.
Did we want to throw some wants up on the board now?
Let's look at
So
some
now
wants.
let's shift it. Now we've identified what we consider needs. Now let's throw some wants up there and see if we can compare. New house, good one. Date nights. Music.
Redo the backyard. So as Patrice was mentioning, these wants are hopefully short-term achievable items. And so I love seeing like debt-free or like what was the other one that just flipped around? Security. Like, these are things that you can achieve short term. For some of us, it might be longer term. Those might be more dreams when you think about the time it might take to achieve some of this.
No, yeah, I think that's a great point. Like when you look at redoing a backyard or buying a new house, for some it might be a first house, and that might be a dream that they've always had. And that could be, a vision that's a long way away based on where they are in their life and their career. And for others, it's just, hey, we've outgrown this house. We've done a good job of accelerating in our career. It's time to get that, that next step up house. And that could be more of a want. So it all depends on what stage of life we're in.
What really strikes me is that if I look at all these wants, there's a conflict. We want vacation and we want to have a nicer place to live, but then we're going to have to make a decision what's going to take a priority. And I think it was, I have a robust running group of friends, and we were talking about this because that's what we do when we're running. We're solving world problems like this. But we actually, one of our friends actually confessed how 1 year, what she and her husband do, they dedicate it to home remodels, and 1 year it's dedicated to travel, and they just do that every single year, and it's working great for them. And kind of in my mind, I was like, that's brilliant, because I always think in my mind, well, like there's never going to be, I really want to take this vacation, and I really want to redo, my backyard, but I never commit to one or the other because it's just, I never plan for it. So I think it's like identifying really what's important, even within your wants, and make it tangible and create the plan for it. I think it's you bring it more to reality and make it come to, make it true for you.
And we'll do the last exercise for dreams too, because I'm curious to kind of see what some of these big dreams are. But as we do, you bring up a great point where, like, individually, my needs, wants, and dreams may be completely different than my significant others or the people in my life that they impact. And so having those discussions and those conversations, because I might say I want to redo the bathroom, or I would never say that, sorry. I might want to go on a vacation, and my wife might want to redo the bathroom, but it's like they are in conflict. So trying to build out that plan, and I think, again, I'm beating this point home, but writing it down and having that strategy is so important. So on the dream side, you'll see there's a lot of, some people said vacations as needs, vacations as wants, and vacations as dreams. So it's going to be this creep between each of these categories, and how do we manage the process?
Yeah, no, and what rings true to me is I see, the home renovation or getting into a new home, and this is a struggle that my wife and I have had. Since we first got married, we were very fortunate in the fact that we were able to come together and buy a home. Our dream had always been to have a home that we could have, an office and a playroom for the kids and enough space to where we could entertain, and then, a backyard where we can go out and throw the ball around and maybe have a pool. But somewhere that we were proud to bring, our family and friends over and able to without being crammed. And so when we had the opportunity to get a first house, it was much smaller than anything we intended. We didn't have a backyard, but we're like, hey, we're very fortunate. We get to come in and start, getting equity in a house, and let's set some goals. And our dream was to be able to get to that next house. And now 8 years later, we sat and had that conversation, and we're like, look, we've done everything we could. We've progressed in our careers. And we've kind of hit the goals that we've set out to, but there are some things that are beyond our control. And with the way that interest rates have gone, real estate markets, we were looking at what that house would cost and what that would do to our lifestyle, what that would do to the memory bank. And if we wanted to get that step up in house, so we would have to pay 60% of our monthly income to a mortgage, and we could do that. But that means now we're sacrificing the weekend trips, the kids being able to play any sports that they want. And so we made the decision, we're like, let's stay in this house, let's keep on providing to the memory bank, right? And, as a financial planner and as someone that, manages investments, you might say, well, wouldn't it be better to be getting equity in a bigger house and whatnot? And it's like, well, you got to really understand what's most important to us at the time. And for us as a family, the right decision was continuing to be able to live a better lifestyle, have fun, and invest in our kids rather than just being in a bigger house. So it just identifies kind of that struggle that I think we all go through, and maybe we haven't even thought of it, but our wants and our dreams are kind of fighting each other at times.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So people have dreams And I'm curious, when you're recommending to write or post our dreams, are these dreams that you think are potentially realistic, or are they dreams that I know damn well it'll never happen?
I mean, I would hope that the dreams that you are putting up there are something that you feel you truly can accomplish. Yeah.
It's more of the runway that will take you to get there. But I would say a lot of times, I think even this conversation is good because a lot of times we think we can't do the dreams that we set to do, but it takes another person to guide us through that. So having an accountability partner, and I think we have some wonderful conversations, I think, at Morton with our clients as we kind of talk through some things and people go, oh, wow, I probably can buy a second home and move to the mountains or go move to the beach, or I can help my child with the down payment on the house. I never really thought I could before. So it's more of making the numbers tangent versus allowing your mind to think that it's not something that'll ever be possible. So more in that sense.
Thanks, Patrice. Do you guys want to move on to the next mentee questions?
I'll share. Do you want to share a story?
Yeah.
Get a little vulnerable, I guess. Vulnerable. So for me, when I think through all this struggle and my natural habit to spend versus save, I'll look at my bank account or I'll look at my 401k or I'll look at just the traditional way of savings. And I'll just be honest, there's times where I'm like, I work really hard, my wife works really hard, we've had successful careers, like why aren't these numbers bigger? Now I know it's because I'm investing in the memory bank instead of those bank accounts. And I think for the younger generation specifically, we tend to invest or tend to save maybe a little differently than possibly our parents or even our grandparents did. So it was a nice exercise and is actually supported by the team, right? We all seek each other's financial support as we go through this. But it's like, well, Kevin, let's look at all that you guys are doing. And so part owner in Morton, so I have equity there. My wife has her own business. There's equity there. You don't really see that on paper. And you have the little bit in the 401k or the trust account, but then we have life insurance policies that have cash accumulation in them. Then we have a rental property. And so you start going through and looking at our net worth. And even though on a month-to-month basis, it might feel like, oh man, we're strapped for cash or things get tight at times. But from a saving standpoint, it might not look traditional, but we've actually still done pretty well. And so that was a nice exercise for me to kind of step back and say, even though I feel at times that we're kind of jeopardizing our future and are we going to be okay? Like, where are we going to pull our assets from? And it's like we have different buckets. And so when we think through planning as a younger generation, whether it be kids, grandkids, ourselves, it doesn't have to look like everybody else. It doesn't have to be like, well, how much is in your 401k? There's other ways to accumulate wealth. There's other ways to plan for future retirement. So for us, it was, I still would like to see the numbers bigger because there's comfort in that, but looking at the full picture, I think is important.
No, and I think when we did that exercise, it really identified that we joke about your spending and how the memory bank is
a lot
is full, but you're really doing a lot of the right things and you're accumulating wealth in a lot of different areas. And at the end of the day, when you think about those things and from a holistic financial planning view, if you've set a pattern and a habit to where you are making small contributions and you're chipping away, whether it's equity in your home, equity in your business, equity in your wife's business, a little bit in your 401k here, a little bit in the 529 there, all of these things, if you look at them singularly, can be very overwhelming. How am I going to pay for private school? How am I going to pay for college? But once you set up kind of that path and you're on track by just making small contributions, and it's kind of set it and forget it. I'm putting X amount here, X amount there. In 10 years, in 15 years, you're going to look back and like, wow, I did a lot of great things and I made a huge step forward without ever feeling the pressure of having to accomplish any one of them at one time. And I think that's the importance of having, a partner and having taking the time to really set out what your needs, wants, and dreams are, and then creating that financial plan so that you can start to do that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about too, and just from a mindset standpoint, it's not what you make minus your expenses equals savings. And because if we did that, I would never have any savings, right? So what happens for me, like all of the things I mentioned, the mortgage comes out automatically. The 401k is contributed to automatically. I have to make the payments on the life insurance or the rental property. So for me, I am actually paying myself first in a lot of those areas, even though it might not feel that way. Then we use our expenses and then look at the empty bank account at the end of the month. But so like, I think for all of us to think through as we're building for future wants and especially for future dreams, if you don't put that aside first, there's usually, I'll almost say almost always going to be a need or a want, whether it's a concert or a game or going to dinner with friends. Like in the moment, that just feels awesome. I don't want to miss out on that. And so if you're not paying yourself first, which I think is one of the biggest keys to financial success long term, we should start considering doing that and having it come out automatically. You don't have to be the one clicking the buttons. It just goes, and you'll wake up in a few years and be like, wow, I can't believe that little amount every month made a big difference.
You caused a trigger, in me with college conversations. Raise your hand if you have small children. If you have grandchildren. Let's see. All right, here we go. That's most of the room. So I have my oldest son is a first year at college. My younger one's a junior. And I have to say that I've embarked on an interesting journey learning about all things college. But when it comes to spending, what's very interesting is that I remember 20 years ago when I started in this industry, 20 plus years ago, I remember often financial advisors would tell clients, there's no loans for retirement, but there's definitely loans for college. So that was kind of the mantra that we all led by. So college was one of those, if I don't save for it, it's all good. And I believed it. It was, I started at 529. I was very responsible. I think, it's a great tool for college education. The problem was that I haphazardly, invested or contributed to it. I did have automation, but then I pulled it back, then I stopped it. And what's interesting is that when I think about saving for college, and it's all the things I should have done now that it's too late for me, but now I have the benefit of hindsight, is if you think about when you're flying in an airplane and they tell you, if something happens, put your mask on first, then the kids. So it's the same thing what I said before with college. We put the mask on first, we forget to put it on the kids. So when I think about what's happened right now, and as I have conversations with my clients and my friends, we know there's a just staggering amount of student debt that the entire U.S. population is struggling to tackle. And the problem is that we come to, junior year of high school where little Johnny's like, Mom, I want to go to USC. And, oh, sure, USC is $90,000 a year times 4. Sure, we can do that. And it's not, it's truly more of an afterthought. And you're like, all right, we'll figure it out. We've got like 30,000 to 529. We'll get loans. We'll figure it out. And it's literally, yeah, it's like, but now you're thinking maybe I should pull back on my retirement, contributions, or I am now going to do something else. But it made me think truly at the end of the day is that as you help your children save for that particular bucket, have more of have conversations with them, because a lot of times people save for the cost, not for what's available to save. And what I mean by that is the fact that, you can decide, you and your partner, little Johnny's going to go to college one day. That's important to us. And we're going to save $150,000 over the next 15 to 18 years. And that's a number you're going to commit to, because then you can back into it. But if you're not going to do that, and all of a sudden, you think the child's going to end up at a very expensive private school, and you come to one of us and we're going to say, well, you're going to have to save $2,500 a month because college in 18 years is going to be $700,000 as a sticker price. So how does that sound to you? And you go, no, Patrice, Kevin, Mike, we can't do that. So then you're going to put that on hold. 5 years go by, and then you're going to come back to us and say, shoot, I still did not save for college. It's still $700,000, by the way, probably more now because inflation's higher. So it's just kind of thinking about, at the end of the day, student loans are not all worth it. So have more of a discussion around what exactly is important to you. What kind of adult are you trying to raise also? I think that's a bigger question. What do you want them to be at 25, at 30? Do you want them to be a homeowner? Do you want them to start their life successfully? Because coming out of college saddled with debt is really, really hard to be able to, you're basically treading water and barely staying afloat with that kind of mindset. So just wanted to, for me, it's been a learning curve. My friends here know that I am all about college planning, so I'm here as a resource at any point for that.
And an amazing resource at that. Having kids that are 4 and 6, I've leveraged her so many times in the past, and I'm constantly asking her questions where I think I might know the right answer, but it gives me a lot of happiness knowing that I have her by my side to kind of help me with those decisions. We do have a couple more mentee questions that we want to throw up there. Then the first one really comes down to dreaming, but also we might have different perspectives on when we get a windfall, and we want to see where your thoughts kind of lie. So if you were given $500,000, what would you put this money toward? And it doesn't have to be one thing. Yeah.
So on
Right?
needs, wants, or dreams?
Needs,
Mentee.
I would invest it.
And so if you're going to invest it, would that be investing it with the purpose of fulfilling a need or a want or a dream?
A need.
I want 500,000.
That's definitely my dad, yeah.
You should have sat in on the investment one downstairs.
Yeah. Well, he should actually be sitting here in my place.
So I think dreams is leading, and we'll ask the next question because I want to kind of compete him against.
Yeah, so now we see that dream was the leader there. Now we're going to change that a little bit. And if you were given $50,000, what specifically would you spend it on? Still college?
Yep. Got one in it right now, so I know. We started in this too. I don't know that,
You're knee deep in
No,
it.
go for it.
I don't know that I would spend it
Yeah.
on one of those
Yeah.
ones.
Save it.
Yeah, you can save it.
Put it away, just kind of bury it like a little squirrel. Who needs drapes? The couch you can still sit on. It's good enough. I'm one of those people, and maybe just a little more for my children, because I'm not really a material girl. So there's not really stuff I have to. So the need and the want, are just, what was it? Need, want, and
Dreams.
dreams.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. That's what goes around in your head at night. You can't sleep. Right. No, that's nightmares, yeah. But it's nobody's business but your own. People only let you see what they choose to let you see. So, if you always look over at the Joneses, the Schmidts, the Murdochs, whatever it is, it's at the end of the line. Not to be political, but I will say, we're very fortunate to be here in this room discussing this, and this is a first world problem, if
Absolutely.
you know what I mean, given what's going, so.
And I think that's a good perspective to have.
Did you have something? Sorry.
I split it between our kids because in this economy, they're struggling.
It's hard.
Right? They're really struggling with having children of their own. So
Yeah.
I'd split 50-50 and,
It's awesome.
yeah.
Help offset some of those increased expenses that they're having to deal with so that they can even just get their needs.
Exactly.
Yeah, obviously, if someone came into $500,000, you don't have to put it all just in the needs, wants, or dreams bucket. Most of us would probably take a vacation or pay off a little debt, or we would split it a little bit. But what was interesting is a large sum of money gives us kind of the thought or the freedom of dreaming. It's like, okay, well, now I got this windfall. What can I really achieve? Where for most people, $50,000 doesn't change their life, and so it's, let's redo a bathroom or go on a vacation, or it's something usually a little bit more short term. There are some longer term things on there as well, but it just, as you earn money, as you come into increased wealth, like having that plan, going back to knowing what those buckets are will just be so impactful.
No, and I think this all goes back to the importance, because we're going to beat a dead horse here, of having a plan and writing things down. But we've addressed needs, wants, and dreams. But really, for holistic planning, you really have to look at the 4 kind of different areas of your world, right? You've got your life, your family, your career, and your investments. And each one of these things, you're going to have needs, wants, and dreams in, right? And that's a lot to balance, and that's a lot of decisions to be made. So knowing that, how do you guys partner with clients to kind of help them, understand where the priority should go in the context of needs, wants, and dreams?
That's really not an easy task to achieve, but one of my, I'm lucky to work with some younger clients, and I have a young lady. When I say young, if you're under 30, to me, you're going to be younger. And she actually inherited about $2 million from her grandparents. And it doesn't, what's interesting about that, you might think, what's the big deal, inheritance? For 2 years, she did nothing about it. She was paralyzed by the amount of money she received. Not to mention the fact that her grandparents skipped her parents for other reasons and decided to give her all the money, plus the 2 real estate properties, a home and a rental property. So 2 years, she let the money, not really thinking the strategy. It was not invested properly, barely invested. And then when she came to us, it was really kind of thinking, like, what do I do with this? Like, I really don't know what to do with this. So we bucket it, just like Mike said. There's the life side of it. There's the career side of it. There's the investment side of it. And there's the family, which for her, she's not quite there yet, but she wants to have a family. So having those discussions really it's not really about money at the end of the day. For her, it's like allowing flexibility, and she wants to start a business, so she did. It's called Cosmic Wines. She's assigning wines to your zodiac sign. It's kind of cool, and gets them delivered to your house. But also learning about what money can do for her. Remember, I talked about the prefrontal cortex, and like she's having a hard time kind of visualizing the future. She doesn't know if 2 million is a lot or too little. And it's hard to even kind of do a full financial plan for her to really understand what the future can look for her. But what we know is doing a spending strategy. How much money are you spending? How much can the portfolio generate? How much money can you make in income? How can you be better, be more strategic for your taxes? What kind of savings can you put in place? How can we automate everything? How do we make your life easy so you can focus on the things that are most important to you? So I think that's where I get the most joy, is kind of working through those areas of one's life, probably.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay.
So for me, not everybody in 20 or 30 inherits $2 million. And so one thing that really frustrates me about the financial services industry is we are really well suited to serve people once they're wealthy. So we say, hey, give us $1 million and now you have a partner in your financial future. But what about the 20, 30, 40-year-olds that they're successful, they're making really good money, and they have so much complexity in their lives. For those of you that have been through those years, if you think back to raising kids, buying houses, starting businesses, you have questions on, do I put a 30-year fixed on this home or a 10-year ARM? Do I buy or lease this car? Should I have a side business where I can deduct things and minimize my taxes? There are so many questions that the younger generations have, but they don't have a support from an advisor. So for those of you out there, this is my little pitch and plug. Modern Decisions. So we have an offering now at Morton that I'm so proud of. We started it about 2 years ago, and there's no assets under management requirement. So if you think of just even myself or my friends, most of us would be great clients in 2, 3, 5 years when you switch jobs and all of a sudden your 401k becomes accessible. Or a lot of us have Bitcoin and a rental property, and we have all these assets and all these things that need advice on, but not necessarily assets under management. And so for us to work with the younger generation, it's just to be able to have a way for us to partner with them. We like to kind of talk about it being like a personal trainer meets concierge doctor. So you think of a personal trainer, like you have to set those goals, but the problem with most of us is you can tell us what to do, but actually going through with it, because life gets busy, life gets complicated. So a trainer is you're gonna have a scheduled time. You're probably gonna show up if the trainer knows you're coming versus, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym at such and such time. You should be talking about gyms. I don't go to the gym, but I would imagine the trainer holds you accountable and they help you achieve these steps along the way. And then the concierge doctor piece is most of the younger professionals don't necessarily want to sit down and have quarterly reviews. They just kind of learn on the fly, or maybe their colleague said, hey, have you ever thought about this? They can just text us. They can just go through the app and say, hey, does this apply to me? Or I'm at the dealership. Do I buy or lease this car? How much should I put down? They're offering me 0.9% for 3 years. Do I take it? All of these decisions that most of us just make, kind of either researching or looking at social media or asking friends, we wake up later and we have this financial mosaic, right? It's not that every decision was bad, but there's really no cohesive program or planning to it. And so for me, I'm passionate about working with the younger generations, the kind of the forgotten clients that are super successful, but don't have the AUM for the traditional model, excuse me. So working with all these different areas with our clients and different focus, different stresses depending on what's going on in their lives. One month it's one thing, the next month it's another simple one, and then I'll stop. But enrollment at work. How many of us just pick a healthcare plan? We're like, oh, I don't really like HMO, or I like it because it's cheaper. I don't really go to the doc. I don't really know. Do I need an HSA plan? Who invests in just the target date in their 401k because that's what their partner does, or they don't know how to really build a portfolio? How nice would it be to have somebody that can help you make those decisions? And so that's how we partner with our younger clientele and work through those different life decisions.
And what, like, as an advisor, what a game changer that's been to have the ability to actually work with these people. I used to get introductions to young professionals, and immediately I'd feel like I was getting punched in the gut. I'd be like, God, this person, their life's getting more complicated. They've got all of these moving pieces. They're accelerating in their careers. They're buying a house. They're starting a family. They need advice the most, and I'm not able to give it to them. Even though they're going to be the perfect client in 3 years, they don't meet our asset minimum. And so I have to turn away, potentially amazing clients because of a flawed structure, right? And so for us to think outside the box and be able to actually work with these young families and young professionals and help them, accomplish their needs, wants, and dreams. I mean, as an advisor, it's opened up a whole new world for all of us. And so I'm just appreciative that we, as a firm, are able to identify that as a problem and come up with a solution. But look, guys, I think, we've talked a lot about needs, wants, and dreams, about spending strategy today. I think if you take away anything, it's that the importance of having an accountability partner, the importance of really knowing yourself and knowing what your own needs, wants, and dreams are, and then identifying what kind of spender you are. What kind of memories do you want to create, or what kind of bank account, or how do you want to build that bank account? And once you've kind of done those 3 steps, you can really start to progress moving forward into accomplishing those needs, wants, and dreams. And if you guys don't want to work with a professional, if you don't have a financial advisor, I think it's really good just to start with identifying what your emergency fund is, right? If you're a single income home, you should probably have at least 6 months of non-discretionary spending saved. And if you're a dual income home, maybe you can have 3 months and get away with it, because there's a little less risk if one of you lose your job. If you're an entrepreneur, maybe you want 12 to 18 months, because you might be sitting there and have an idea for a business and think, God, no, I got to go create that business, and you're going to want some runway to do that. And once you've got the emergency fund set up, then next thing you're going to tackle is free money. If you're working for someone and they have a company-sponsored 401k and they match any amount of dollars, take that free money. So if, say, it's a 3% match and you make $100,000, make sure you're contributing $3,000 in there, because that $3,000 automatically becomes $6,000. So don't turn away free money. Once you get past that, make sure you're covering all your high interest debt, right? If you've got debt that's above 7-8%, you shouldn't be investing money. You should be focusing on paying down that debt, decreasing the stress in your life. Once that debt is paid off, now we can talk about, if we still have money, now we can start looking at what our short-term goals are, or increasing our retirement contributions. We can start, building a taxable account because we want to put a down payment on a house. We could fund that 529 with those monthly contributions. And if you're kind of following that order, you'll be in a good place to at least have the starting point, the foundation of a financial plan.
Yeah, no, thank you. The only thing, there's no right or wrong answer saying this. I'm going to quote Taylor Swift. I know it's probably not her quote, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So it's just not having a plan.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thank you all for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for being incredible. And
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.